Hi everybody, this is Coffee. I'm going to go over the next stage of the process of becoming a police officer, and that is the oral board. And the oral board is typically something they give you after you give your initial application in, and they want to see that you're not a felon. Once they get all the initial checklists out of the way, they invite you to come in, where you're going to be seated in front of a bunch of command staff that are going to ask you a bunch of questions. Highly formal. You've got the command staff in there with all the colored brass and shine shoes and cool stuff, right? Now, these questions are designed to test your knowledge regarding policing if you're a police officer, or for your general life experience if you're not. Now, the reason why oral boards are done is threefold. Now, first reason is to see if you are crazy or not, okay? The world is not Miami Vice. You don't want to give somebody a gun who thinks that it is, okay? We're not all driving around in Testarossas, making gigantic cocaine busts, and shooting people left and right. Doesn't happen, okay? Second thing is you want to see if somebody's calm under pressure. What does this mean, calm under pressure, in this situation? Well, they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. Typically, you'll have people that are very nervous. You know, even you guys with a lot of experience, and they're like, oh, if I want this job, what do I say? I'm going to say the wrong thing. What is this department looking for? And they want to see that you can actually handle those questions well. Additionally, they're typically going to ask you something like a challenge question. So they ask you X, you respond with Y, and then they say something effective, well, why would you do this? And they might gesticulate, and they might change their voice, like I just said. And they're doing that to see if you're going to fall. If you're going to be like, well, I don't know, should I do something else? This is what I thought of. They don't want to see that. Okay. Third thing is to see how well you can articulate. You do not want an idiot in police work. You don't want somebody who's monosyllabic, cannot speak well, and cannot write well. All right? Now, all these things are well and good. All right, I get what it's there for, but it does nothing very well in terms of any of these. Okay, I'll go over some of the problems with the actual oral board. Okay, one is you have absurdity in questions. Now, what do I mean by absurdity? Well, in my research, I've poured over maybe 350 different questions, and maybe 60% of them are completely irrelevant, or they're so outlandish that it's not germane to police work. One question that I've come across which really bothers me is this one right here, which is, how would you increase cultural diversity within the police department? Well, first thing is, it's not my job. That's an HR job. If they want to hire different cultures, races, that sort of stuff, they can do so. All right? I'm not in charge of hiring. Two, the more reason is that as a police officer, I am not supposed to see gender, race, creed, nationality, or sex, okay? I am impartial and fair in that regard. Justice is blind, so in my enforcement action, I am to be as well, all right? So with this question, it makes me think, well, am I supposed to have a practice of changing my enforcement action based upon somebody's like affluence, for example, or their culture? That doesn't make sense, okay? And that borders on like racism, right? That's bad, right? The next problem that I find is you have unrealistic predictions of future success. What does this mean? Well, back to our whole calm under pressure issue right here. All right, when you are able to handle the challenge questions well, you're able to say, I would do X, Y, and Z in this situation even when they challenge you, they think, oh, you make a great cop because you handle that pressure well. Newsflash. The way you do things in roller board is not how you would react in the street, okay? You can have somebody who comes in there and give you pristine answers, and they are cookie dough on the street. They get walked over, and that is a safety issue, and they suck as a police officer.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? We're some real pretty shit now, man.
You finished?
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
I've seen it before, all right? Well, so therefore, this does not work. This is not a good predictor of future success. How you tell somebody's calm under pressure is when you put them through the academy and through their FTO process, which is field training. You see how they react to certain situations. You put them in stressful situations regarding scenarios and training and all sorts of stuff like that to see how they react. And if they don't react well, then you can determine that they will not be successful based upon our longitudinal study of that individual for training. Okay? Furthermore, this prediction of future success in the department is not, it does not jive well with the whole long-term career success, okay, which is what's designed for in that regard. You have a police chief in the Midwestern states who has a website and they go over oral board questions. Good guy, good responses. And in one video, he talks about that the oral board is a toxic process. Toxic. Now, what does he mean by that? He means that basically what happens is when you go through this oral board and the people are standing on the other end, they are attempting to see if you'd be a good fit as a police department over a long term. Now, to use that police chief's analogy, he states that it would be equivalent to somebody trying to find a life mate within only 15 minutes of meeting them. Okay, so you go through a selection process, and out of the 30-something recruits for your life partner, that you only get to choose one, and you get to decide that in 15 minutes, and then you're stuck with them for 25 years. And that makes no sense whatsoever. Somebody's answers in 15 minutes is not going to make them a good life partner, and it is not going to make them a good police officer. All right. Third thing here, solipsism and answers. What is solipsism, you might ask? Well, solipsism is the attitude or the belief or the action that only one way to do things is the correct way. Okay. Now, solipsism in math, engineering is good. All right. You don't want somebody who thinks 2 + 2 is 5. Or somebody who tries to divide by 0, because then the world will explode. All right. Solipsism in qualitative fields, psychology, sociology, or police work for that matter, is bad. We come from all walks of life. We come into different scenarios constantly. If you use the same method of conflict resolution for every situation, you will fail at this job. All right, and you will fail in those academic fields as well. So let me give you a quick example of solipsism in answering, especially for the oral board. Here you might see this little scenario right here, naked man with a knife. All right, one of the oral board questions they might give you is something to the effect of, well, you get called to a burglary in progress. With the scenario, you arrive and you see a naked man with a knife. I don't know why he's naked. That's just the way the scenario says. He could be clothed. I wish they would have said that made more sense. Anyway, he's naked, and he's got a knife. There's a guy on the ground. Now, he's holding a knife in a very aggressive manner towards the guy on the ground. And our naked dude is covered in blood. There's broken glass everywhere, and the shit is hitting the fan, basically. It's a bad situation. What do? Okay, so being a police officer for the better part of a decade, draw your service weapon, give them commands to drop the knife, prone them out, wait for the officers to arrive on scene, take the individual into custody. So it's a good response, and typically recruits might say the same thing because it's not too far reaching to figure out what you need to do in that situation. But then the challenge question comes because they want to see if you are calm under pressure. Okay, so in that case they say, well, you give him commands, he refuses and he charges at you. What do? Okay, well, I know how I would respond, and my response would be something to the effect of, this individual means to cause serious physical injury or death to me with his weapon. Therefore, I draw my issued service weapon, point, give commands, and use the amount of force necessary to neutralize the threat. Good, right? Therefore, when you go to IA or a grand jury and that sort of stuff, that's the answer you give. Now, you have a guy with no experience whatsoever, or you have a guy who's got a lot of police experience, but he doesn't say that. He's more earthy. He just gives you that straightforward answer. He says, shoot him.
He's gonna kill her, man! He's gonna kill her!
Your move, creep.
Now, it's a good answer. It makes sense. You have to use lethal force. He just didn't articulate in a manner that sounds nice and pretty. Now, when you say shoot him, a lot of oral boards will say, and they disqualify the candidate off the bat. He's done. Because he didn't say it in a nice, frilly, pretty manner. Okay? That is solipsism. Okay? When he says that, the next question would be, well, why would you shoot him? Well, because he means to kill me. Okay? And you have a perfectly good answer from there. So why are we in this mentality of he's got to answer a specific way or it's not going to work, even though we're saying the same thing? If you feel that he needs to say this, if he gets in a lethal force situation, he needs to be able to articulate this in a certain manner, then you train that individual that way. You see he's a good applicant, and then when you go through training, you say, actually, you need this. And plus, you have your union rep there, a lawyer, and everything else like that. But even in minor situations, if an individual's more earthy, you have their field training officer work with them, or their sergeant work with them, and say, let's try to craft it this way. And that makes much better sense than just, oh, well, he's not perfect out of the box, so axe him. Finally, this is a big one right here, and I'll get the solution within this. No reciprocal communication. What does this mean? When you speak to somebody, your friends, your family, whatever else like that, especially you hope with your family, you speak to them and you hope they listen to you, okay? And then when they're listening to you, they respond back, and it's a circular pattern. You are committing to a process of reactive listening and paraphrasing and speaking back and all that good conflict resolution stuff. So, where is this in the enrollment report? It's not there. What we have basically is you ask this question, I respond in this manner, and that's it. Next question. They might ask you a challenge question, might ask you to clarify a little bit, but they actually don't care. Okay? And what happens is this, you get a lot of canned answers. Okay? They want to hear a specific way, again, solipsism, that you answer this question. And therefore, you have recruits with maybe a little bit of experience, or they talk to somebody and they're saying, they're going to ask you this, so say it this way. And the answers are canned. They're correct answers, but they're boring, and it's the same thing. You're not actually getting a good barometer of individual personality or why they're doing this job, why they're applying for this department. So, how do we fix this? Okay? Now, the best solution here is to scrap all this crap. Okay, we get rid of the oral board completely. So, what do we do in its place? You should assign every officer to a recruiter. I know you typically have like 2 recruiters going on, and if that's the case, you need more. All right? I don't mean civilian recruiters, I mean actual venerable officers. And if you have guys that are on duty who are actually on the road or another position, give them a side job saying like, we need you to do this. If you need to pay them, you do that. So what the recruiter does basically is the recruiter is given a series of informal questions, because being informal is very important for this interview process. I'll tell you why in a second. And they invite the guy in, and it's in an informal setting, and you can record it just so you can give it along, and it's proof that it took place, etc. Now, these questions that they're asked to the recruit is to get to know them. And when a recruit or a lateral officer is in a situation where they feel comfortable, you're going to get truthful answers. All right? They don't feel nervous. You're not going to get these, basically. You're going to get the answers that they're actually thinking of, stuff off the top of their head versus, oh, I shouldn't say that because they don't want to hear this. All right? You remove the solipsism, basically. When you have a guy who's been doing this job for a long time, and he sits there and he listens to a lateral or a recruit come in and give him the answers, and then we're all on the same page, even though I'm saying it differently, then you circumvent this crap right here. Okay? No more canned answers, and then you build a rapport with that recruit or that lateral. Okay? And when you use that recruiter can facilitate everything else to make everything else a lot quicker than currently in police work recruiting, which can take up to 8 months, which is absurd. So again, when we have a recruiter, bring him in, make him feel comfortable, and then you have a venerable officer who's been doing this for a long time, they can tell right off the bat if somebody is completely nuts, all right, because they're calm. 2, you can get a general idea if they've been calm under pressure with scenarios in their life, okay? But again, we're not using this as a barometer, but you can get their general life experience and that sort of stuff. And also, when somebody is calm and comfortable and they have a good rapport, they tend to articulate better. They're not nervous, all right? Which is what you want to see. And nervousness can be broken over time, but damning somebody off the back because they're nervous on an oral board they might do once in their entire lives just for this, So this is pretty much this. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything else like that, put them below. I'll try to answer them, and I'll try to make a video if you have any good questions. All right? Thanks, guys.